T-minus 10, 9, 8,
The clock is operating. We're underway.
Tranquility Base here.
Endeavour, go at throttle.
Again, everything continues to go well. This is the 17th flight of the Space Shuttle Endeavour today, the 107th flight shuttle history. And here come our crew members, led by Commander Dom Gorey, pilot Mark Kelly, Linda Godwin, Dan Tani, Carl Waltz, Yuri Franco, and Dan Birch.
5-1, biomed will be not performed.
Copy that.
I want to take you to the Kennedy Space Center, which is about here in Florida. Endeavour is on the launch pad waiting to get off the ground. This will be the third time lucky if it does. It's scheduled to take off at 22:19 GMT, but will it make it? It's all about cloud cover. There's a few showers offshore, but they're really towards the south of that launch pad. I was listening very carefully to the Space Center, and they were talking about monitoring the radar, checking the cloud cover, the showers actually being further towards the south. So potentially it could take off, but I am looking at the sky there, and in the background it does look rather cloudy. Head back here to the weather studio. We will be actually going to that space launch live, if it happens, later on today. Let's move into the Pacific Northwest area. Bigger amounts of stormy wet weather heading in across this region, bringing snow across the northern plains as well. Behind this weather system, expect cooler temperatures, and ahead of it, very breezy weather. And then we get towards the mild stuff. You see this H here? All of this area across that southeast, even up through the eastern seaboard, seeing milder than normal temperatures. In fact, we're seeing some record highs for December. Let's see how that weather shapes up. That H is gradually exiting off towards the Atlantic. Meanwhile, we still have a nice little slot of mild weather, but not for long, as this wet weather gradually eases further along towards the coast. In the forecast temperatures coming up for your Thursday, we have Vancouver at 8, 23 for Los Angeles. And look at this, New York in December, 21 degrees in Celsius. Pretty impressive.
Who was monitoring weather conditions at the Kennedy Space Center. Polanski is in direct contact with Chief Astronaut Charlie Precourt, who is flying the shuttle training aircraft around the vicinity of the shuttle landing strip at the Cape. Down.
Endeavour Launch Director.
Go ahead, Mike.
Okay, Dom, well, we kept you in town a few extra days this time. It looks like the weather is coming together today. The vehicle's in good shape, so if we get through the next few minutes, you guys will be on your way. So have a great flight, and to the Expedition 4 crew, farewell.
Mike, first, we'd like to say thank you to the entire KSC team for getting Endeavour in great shape. And secondly, from the entire crew, we're all well aware that for over 200 years, and certainly over the last 2 months, freedom rings loud and clear across this country, but right here and right now, it's time to let freedom roar. Let's light them up.
You bet. Thank you, Dom. Great words. NTD, with that, you're cleared to pick up and insert a hold at 5 until we get to go from the ops manager.
I copy. Thank you.
Mark.
And we are at T-minus 9 minutes and counting. And the ground launch sequencer has been initiated. NASA Test Director Jeff Spaulding is about to call for the transmittal of stored pre-launch commands as Endeavour is prepared for launch on shuttle mission STS-108, less than 9 minutes away, on a mission back to the International Space Station.
CLT, OTC. CLT, go.
Connect essential buses to fuel cells per your checklist.
Essentials to the fuel cells and work.
T-minus 8 minutes and counting. Mark Kelly is now flipping switches in the cockpit to directly connect the 3 fuel cells to the essential power buses.
Copy.
So, liebe Zuschauer, in wenigen Minuten um 23:19 Uhr wird in Cape Canaveral der Start der US-Raumfähre Endeavour erwartet. Die Raumfähre fliegt zur internationalen Raumstation ISS. Sie sehen bei uns im Hintergrund bereits das Bild live aus Cape Canaveral. Der Countdown sozusagen, er läuft. Jetzt ist es bei uns 23:12 Uhr und also noch knapp 7 Minuten. Und wenn das Ganze dann dort losgeht in Cape Canaveral, schalten wir uns live ein. Bis gleich.
T-minus 7 minutes, 30 seconds and counting, and the orbiter access arm is being retracted away from the vehicle. This is the walkway used by the crew to gain entry into and out of the vehicle, and if necessary can be returned to position within just a few seconds.
CAPU OTC. JRPS OTC. JRPS. 1069. Start APU recorders. APU strip starts are running. PLT OTC. PLT go. Perform APU pre-start. PLT and work.
And the orbiter test conductor, Rudy Tinch, has given pilot Mark Kelly the go-ahead to perform the auxiliary power unit pre-start procedure. Kelly will set the switches in the cockpit to put the 3 power units in the ready-to-start configuration. T-minus 6 minutes and counting.
OTC, PLT, APU pre-start complete, 3 grade talkbacks.
OTC copy.
And Mark Kelly has reported that the pre-start procedures are complete. APU activation will come up in just a few seconds.
Go ahead, Tom.
Yeah, for your request, net score is activated this time.
Copy.
T-minus 5 minutes and counting.
Go.
And we have a go for APU start. The auxiliary power unit activation has been reported complete.
APU start.
PLT and work.
Also at this time, the launch team will be terminating liquid oxygen replenish to the external tank.
CDR.
T-minus 4 minutes, 30 seconds and counting.
PLT, APU start. OTC CDR heater reconfig is complete.
OTC copies.
T-minus 4 minutes and counting. We're in the process now of a final test of the flight control surfaces. This is a programmed pattern of movements designed to verify the readiness for launch of the engines and other flight control surfaces. And a final aerial surface check of the orbiter's wing elevons and rudder are being completed. And this verifies the orbiter's hydraulic systems. And coming up next will be the three main engines. They'll be gimbaled in a final test before launch. T-minus 3 minutes and counting. And all is going well for launch this afternoon. Everything on board Endeavour looks good.
LO2 pressurization.
The gaseous oxygen vent hood will be slowly retracted away from the top of the external tank.
TLT OTC, clear caution warning memory, verify no line.
That will be coming up momentarily.
TLT in order.
T-minus 2 minutes, 30 seconds and counting.
OTC, TLT, caution and warning memory cleared, no unexpected errors.
OTC copy.
Everything continues to look good and we are cleared for launch.
Close and lock your visors and issue.
Endeavour copies.
O2.
T-minus 2 minutes and counting.
CLS is go for LH2 pressurization.
All systems are go, and we are just about 90 seconds from launch of Endeavour. T-minus 60 seconds and counting. The ground launch sequencer is verifying that the three main engines are ready to start. T-minus 45 seconds and counting.
NTV, der Nachrichtensender.
Sie sehen den Start der US-Raumfähre Endeavour in Cape Canaveral im US-Bundesstaat Florida. 23:19 Uhr, das ist die geplante Startzeit der Raumfähre. Der Start ist verschoben worden, also eigentlich sollte die Raumfähre gestern um diese Zeit starten, doch Nebel über Florida hat das Ganze verhindert, denn und hier haben wir den Start. 23:19 Uhr unserer Zeit, das ist 17:19 Uhr Ortszeit in Florida. Die US-Raumfähre Endeavour startet zur internationalen Raumstation ISS. An Bord 1,9 Millionen Liter Treibstoff und die Astronauten
30 seconds into the flight, Endeavour's three liquid fuel main engines now throttling back in a three-step fashion to 72% of rated performance, reducing the stress on the shuttle as it breaks through the sound barrier. Endeavour already 3 miles downrange, 4.5 miles in altitude, losing weight as it heads uphill.
Endeavour Houston, go at throttle up.
Endeavour copies, go at throttle up.
The throttle up call from Capcom Jim Kelly, acknowledged by Commander Dom Gorey aboard Endeavour. Gorey joined on the flight deck by pilot Mark Kelly, flight engineer Dan Tawney, and mission specialist Linda Godwin. The Expedition 4 crew, Russian Commander Yuri Anufrienko, and American flight engineers Dan Bursch and Carl Wall seated down on the middeck. Endeavour now 10 miles downrange, 14 miles in altitude, traveling at about 2,500 miles per hour. Everything looking very good. 3 good auxiliary power units, 3 good fuel cells. All of Endeavour systems in excellent shape. Standing by for solid rocket booster separation.
Watching the launch of Space Shuttle Endeavour, the first Space Shuttle launch since the September 11th attacks, and of course security indeed very tight around the Kennedy Space Station. Fighter jets and helicopters have been keeping watch over the launch pad, and in fact one violator was caught, a helicopter pilot who had strayed off course on Tuesday. And there's also been a no-fly zone extended for about 35 miles around the launch pads, and any boats in the area had to stay at least 3 miles offshore. It's the first time in 20 years as well that journalists have been kept away from the crew leaving for the launch, and the Space Center employees also had to stand a few hundred feet away from the barricade. So we've just been watching the launch of Space Shuttle Endeavour. We'll have more insight for you in just a moment.
T-minus 30 seconds and counting, and we have a go for auto sequence start. Endeavour's onboard computers have primary control of all the vehicle's critical functions. T-minus 20 seconds and counting. T-minus 15 seconds. 12, 10, 9, 8. We have a go for main engine start. 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. We have booster ignition and liftoff of the Space Shuttle Endeavour, pushing our goals skyward using our station in space.
Houston now controlling the flight of Endeavour.
Roll program. Roger, roll, Endeavour.
Endeavour into the roll, placing the shuttle in a heads-down, wings level position, the proper azimuth for the 8.5-minute ride to orbit. "30 seconds into the flight, Endeavour's 3 liquid fuel main engines now throttling back in a 3-step fashion to 72% of rated performance, reducing the stress on the shuttle as it breaks through the sound barrier. Endeavour already 3 miles downrange, 4.5 miles in altitude, losing weight as it heads uphill.
Endeavour, Houston, go at throttle up.
Endeavour copies, go at throttle up.
The throttle up call from Capcom Jim Kelly, acknowledged by Commander Dom Gorey aboard Endeavour. Gorey joined on the flight deck by pilot Mark Kelly, flight engineer Dan Tawney, and mission specialist Linda Godwin. The Expedition 4 crew, Russian Commander Yuri Anufrienko and American flight engineers Dan Bursch and Carl Wall seated down on the middeck. Endeavour now 10 miles downrange, 14 miles in altitude, traveling at about 2,500 miles per hour. Everything looking very good. 3 good auxiliary power units, 3 good fuel cells. All of Endeavour systems in excellent shape. Standing by for solid rocket booster separation. Booster officer reports good solid rocket booster separation, 33 miles downrange, 31 miles in altitude, guidance now converging, Endeavour's onboard computers commanding the main engine nozzles.
Mehrtägiger Verspätung hat die US-Raumfähre Endeavour vor einer knappen Stunde endlich ihren Weg ins All angetreten. Ohne Probleme hob das Shuttle vom Weltraumbahnhof Cape Canaveral in Florida ab. Gestern noch hatte die NASA den Countdown wegen schlechter Wetterverhältnisse wenige Minuten vor dem Start abgebrochen. An Bord befindet sich die neue Langzeitbesatzung der Internationalen Raumstation ISS. Sie soll 5 Monate im All bleiben.
To an orbit just under an hour ago, carrying 7 astronauts to the International Space Station. Also on board are more than 6,000 US flags to commemorate the victims of September the 11th. The liftoff had been delayed by almost a week, first by problems on the space station and then by bad weather at the Kennedy Space Center. The shuttle's mission is to deliver 3 new astronauts and more than 2 tons of supplies to the space station. But this has been largely overshadowed by the memorial cargo and the unprecedented security surrounding the launch.
Erfolgreicher Start. Die amerikanische Raumfähre Endeavour ist auf dem Weg zur internationalen Raumstation ISS. Vor 1,5 Stunden hob das Shuttle in Cape Canaveral ab. Der Start war mehrfach verschoben worden, unter anderem wegen schlechten Wetters. Die Endeavour bringt eine neue Crew zur ISS, die 5 Monate auf der Station bleiben soll.
Endeavour ist in der Nacht um 23:19 Uhr mitteleuropäischer Zeit erfolgreich ins All gestartet. Wegen dichter Bewölkung war der Start um einen Tag verschoben worden. Es war bereits der 3. Versuch. Eigentlich sollte die Raumfähre bereits vergangene Woche abheben. Doch der Countdown wurde damals gestoppt, weil beim Andocken einer russischen Versorgungskapsel an die ISS Probleme aufgetreten waren. Die Endeavour bringt eine neue Besatzung, 2 Amerikaner und einen Russen zur ISS. Die bisherige Crew, 2 Russen und ein Amerikaner, lebt seit August an Bord der Station.
Mit fast einwöchiger Verspätung ist am Abend die US-Raumfähre Endeavour zur internationalen Raumstation ISS gestartet. Die Fähre mit der 7-köpfigen Besatzung hob vom Startgelände in Cape Canaveral im US-Bundesstaat Florida ab. Die neue Besatzung soll die bisherige Crew, die seit August an Bord ist, ablösen.
Endeavour, Houston for Dom with some words on OMS 2 when you're ready.
Vegas, go ahead for OMS.
Dom, we show you with good targets and a good maneuver to attitude, and we show the steps complete pending the burn card steps. We're going to be swapping over to TDRA-Z here in about 2 minutes. In case we don't pick you up on TDRA-C, you're a go for the OMS 2 burn per the card. And if we never pick you up on TDRA-C, we'll see you on the far side at an MET of 5-1 on TDRA West.
Vegas, we copy all 5-1 if we don't get TDRA.
This is Mission Control Houston. Had a mission elapsed time of 32 minutes into the flight of Endeavour. A perfect launch from the Kennedy Space Center this afternoon at 4:19 p.m. Central Time, 5:19 Eastern Time. You're continuing to watch launch replays from the Kennedy Space Center of this afternoon's climb to orbit by the Shuttle Endeavour and its 7 crew members. Commander Dom Gorey, pilot Mark Kelly, mission specialists Dan Tawney and Lewin, and the Expedition 4 crew, Yuri Anufrienko, the Russian commander, and American flight engineers Carl Walls and Dan Bursch, who are setting out on a 5.5-month mission aboard the International Complex. This is Mission Control Houston. What you're watching is a replay of ascent flight deck video that is about to get underway with the launch of Endeavour. There you see main engine start. This being downlinked by the crew of Endeavour in the final hours before it begins its sleep period. And you just saw solid rocket booster ignition and the beginning of the roll program for the launch that occurred just over 5 hours ago from the Kennedy Space Center. Again, you're watching a replay of the ascent flight deck video being provided by Endeavour's astronauts of their launch about 5 hours and 10 minutes ago from the Kennedy Space Center. You just saw solid rocket booster separation, the flash of the booster separation motors enabling the twin cones, the solid rocket boosters, to drop away from Endeavour and to enable Endeavour to continue uphill on the singular power of its 3 liquid fuel main engines.
Config. And Billy O, if somebody could pull out the orbit ops, I'm showing in the flight supplement, there's a picture of a galley and the water hoses, and it appears that the chilled water line, that the key piece of hardware that takes the chilled water line is configured wrong, and it looks like to make it right, we're going to need to get some tools and swap some pose positions. But if you pull that out, we can talk about what we're looking at.
Copy, Endeavour. We're pulling that out right now.
This is Mission Control Houston. Again, you're watching a videotape replay of the ascent flight deck video being downlinked by Endeavour's astronauts of their launch about 5 hours, 17 minutes ago from the Kennedy Space Center.
Go ahead.
Endeavour Houston for Dom. You are go for payload bay doors.
Vegas, we copy. Go for payload bay door opening. Thank you.
This is Mission Control Houston. You're looking at video that was taken shortly after Endeavour reached orbit. Crew downlinking this video at this time. It'll be showing the opening of the payload bay doors. In the left-hand corner of your screen, you can see the orbital docking system that'll be used to dock with the International Space Station Friday afternoon.
Here in the Space Shuttle Flight Control Room, as was the case down at the Kennedy Space Center, a great deal of mindfulness of the time of the year as well as recent events around the world since September 11th and the attacks on America. Here in the Space Shuttle Flight Control Room, a series of baseball caps as well as baseball caps that are in the Space Station Flight Control Room on the Flight Director and Capcom consoles that have been donated by Mayor Rudolph Giuliani's office in New York, from the Fire Department of New York, the New York City Office of Emergency Management Services, and the New York Police Department. These baseball caps to remain on console at the Flight Director's console in both the Space Shuttle and Space Station Flight Control Rooms, symbolic of those who lost their lives in the September 11th attacks on America. Also being carried aboard Endeavour, 6,000 small 4-inch by 6-inch U.S. flags that will be agency presentation items after the flight, as well as a large United States flag that was recovered from the rubble of the World Trade Center in New York after the attacks on New York City on September 11th. Also a large ceremonial U.S. Marine Corps color flag that flew on the Pentagon on September 11th, and a large U.S. flag that flew at the state capitol in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania on September 11th. All of those items being flown aboard Endeavour as commemorative items on this flight, the first space shuttle flight since the attacks on America back on September 11th. Endeavour also carrying 23 New York City police officer shields, 91 New York City police officer patches, and a large flag from the New York City Fire Department.
Houston Endeavour, we're pretty far along in the RMS on orbit init procedure, and just wanted to let you know we're in step 6 to deploy the arm, and we're just getting ready to roll it out.
We copy, Linda. We're following. It looks good so far. Thanks for the update.
Hi, Shuttle crew. I have a surprise for you. Our class is singing some songs to keep you company. Class, say hi. Hi, Shuttle crew. Here's our first song to get you moving.
You gotta sing when your spirit says sing. You gotta sing when your spirit says sing. When your spirit says sing, you gotta sing right along. You gotta sing when your spirit says sing. You gotta shout when your spirit says shout.
Come on, Shuttle crew, let me hear you shout.
When your spirit says shout, you gotta shout right along. You gotta shout when your spirit says shout.
And good morning to Robin's second grade class, and Ms. Woods. That sounded great. It's great to be up here, and miss you guys already.
Well, Dan, these are special kids, and they're going to be the ones that continue the mission that you and Carl and Yuri are starting. I'd like to leave you with another one of their songs while you start your morning.
Can we have a good picture?
And just to let you know, Carl and I are setting up H-reflex down here.
Okay, we have a great picture.
And here's the third expedition for crew member Dan Bursch. All three crew members are making preparations for logistics operations, transfer of equipment and supplies from the orbiter to the International Space Station, which will be their home for a period of upwards of 5 months.
Houston, Endeavour, we're going to start payload base survey and ask controller checkout.
Okay, and we have TV, and we'll be watching.
And Shannon, with the F flight deck pretty busy with the F controller checkout, we'd like to deselect the THC and the RHC at the same time, and then reselect them at the end, and that would disable any inadvertent actuations on the RHC or THC.
That sounds like a real good plan to us.
Payload base survey is underway. These shots are coming to us from a camera on the very end of the shuttle's robotic arm, the remote manipulator system. Arms moving along the left side of Endeavour. The MPLM is shown at the left side of the screen. These target-like devices, the white circles with the dark spots in them, are part of the space vision system, a system designed to use observations which are then computerized as an aid to docking modules. This multipurpose logistics module is named Raffaello and was provided to the station program through the Italian Space Agency. It's making its second trip to the International Space Station. A virtually identical MPLM named Leonardo also has made 2 trips to the station. And a third MPLM is under construction.
Good afternoon and welcome to today's STS-108 mission status briefing. With us is Shuttle Flight Director Wayne Hale and Station Flight Director Sally Davis. We'll hear from both of them on the day's activities and then we'll take questions. One note, we will pause this briefing if we get live coverage on NASA TV of the hatch opening, but we don't anticipate that'll happen before we can conclude it. But if it does, we'll pause the briefing and go to live coverage for a few minutes and then return and pick up where we leave off. Wayne?
Well, good afternoon, everybody. The big event of the day, of course, was the docking of the shuttle with the station. Everything went very, very well. This was the 12th, I believe, docking that we've had between the shuttle and the International Space Station. We used very little propellant today. It was really a smooth rendezvous. Everything worked very, very normally all the way up to the moment of capture. When we had 2 little problems that stopped us for just a minute. We had a thruster that failed to operate. This is a second thruster in a different part of the shuttle than the one we failed the other day. Again, this should not be an impact for the rest of the flight. And the docking mechanism suffered a little bit of stiction in one of the damping mechanisms that caused us to have to do a couple of operations where we extend and retract and work the kinks out of the mechanism, as it were, before we could get the interface sealed for an airtight connection. But all that got past us in just a few minutes, and all is well, and we're looking forward to having the hatches open just a little bit later this afternoon and getting on with the real business of the flight. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to the lead flight director for the joint operation, which is Sally Davis.
Thanks, Wayne. Good afternoon, everybody. Well, while the shuttle was busy rendezvousing and docking with us, the station crew was busy in anticipation of the docked mission. They had several things on their plate to do today, exercise like they do every day, had a couple of medical conferences, some standard systems maintenance that we do almost every day to wrap that up, and then they did a little bit of system reconfiguration to get ready for docking. When we do get to the ingress, which I expect to be happening fairly shortly here, we'll see the usual welcome ceremony, and then the crews will do a safety briefing. And then they'll start right into the Expedition 3 to 4 crew handover. It's important to get that underway and get it behind us so we can get on with the business of transfers. We'll do a few transfers today, and then the crews will go to bed. Tomorrow morning is also a big day. We will do the MPLM installation and hook up and ingress and start some transfers in there. In the meantime, we'll be doing some additional mid-deck transfers and the Expedition 3 to 4 IELK transfers, which is an acronym which means they will trade out the seat liners and entry suits in the Soyuz. And at that point, the Expedition 3 and 4 crews will be officially handed over, and the Expedition 4 crews' time on the space station will officially begin. We expect that around noon tomorrow if everything goes well. And that's all I have.
Okay, thank you. And now we'll take questions if we have any here at JSC. Okay.
I'm Mark Cora from the Eastern Chronicle. I think for Sally Davis, what are some of the first items that go across tonight?
I actually brought my list. They have an EMU, which is Carl's, which was a spare on the shuttle that they're going to move over tonight, and they'll be moving one back the other direction. I'm not exactly sure where that is. We have some hardware that's replacement hardware. There's an LCD monitor for the robotics workstation that needs to be swapped out. We'll bring that over. There's a container of water, we call them CWCs, that will be transferred over tonight also. And the seat liners and suits will be transferred tonight, but not installed until tomorrow.
Okay, no other questions here in Houston, so we do have some media at the Kennedy Space Center in Florida. We'll go there now for questions from Kennedy.
This is Marcia Dunn of the Associated Press for Wayne. Getting back to the docking, Linda was reporting that the dock align light was blinking off. Was that because there was a slight misalignment, and if so, was that related to the stiction in the docking mechanism?
Well, Marcia, that's basically correct. We did have, as you know, the alignment of the mechanism takes a few minutes to occur because we normally have, when we hit the capture latches, some misalignment between our two 100-ton space vehicles. But the alignment mechanism normally takes that out within a matter of a minute or two. And in this case, we did have a little sticky damper mechanism, we believe, that took several minutes for us working with the mechanism to get into alignment. And of course, the crew is watching this alignment. You have to obviously be aligned to make a good tight interface when you pull the mechanism down. So it took us a little bit to work through the misalignments until we got it to close in an aligned manner, and that we think was probably due to a little bit of a sticky damper on one of the legs of the mechanism.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure this is all related. And how does the extra day look, and when might you make a decision on that?
We are going to formally, I think, make a decision at the mission management team the day after the EVA, which, if I've done my math right, is Tuesday morning. We are looking good for that. We don't have it in the bag yet. We're continuing to conserve electricity. We've got some help from our Russian colleagues who are going to make more oxygen with their Electron unit that makes oxygen for the station crew. We're going to actually make some oxygen more than they need for the station crew and use that for the shuttle crew as well. And that will allow us to conserve O2 along with all the other things that we're doing and allow us to extend the flight. We're very optimistic that we will get there, but we're going to wait until after the EVA, repress the vehicles. You know, we lower the pressure and obviously have to repress the airlock and so forth. So we'll make that decision Tuesday morning.
Bill Hart with CBS, Wayne. Last night, I guess you told me that you had 21 hours on an extra day. I was just wondering, is that already changed, or is that extra 3 hours something that will take you several more days to?
Well, you know, again, it's a projection in the future, and it depends on how conservative we are. Today it looked very good that at the rate that we had powered down and we're conserving electricity, it looked very good for the extra day, but things change when you get docked. You have different gear powered on, you have different heaters that have to be activated, and so it'll be another day or two before we get a really good handle on those power predictions for the rest of the docked period and have a really solid number to talk about. But as I say, it looks good and we're getting very close.
Well, I guess what I was asking, you're within a couple of hours no matter what. I mean, that's the ballpark, right?
Basically, we're within a couple of hours, and we're just seeing if we can officially get there and make sure that we have got the right projections and haven't made a miscalculation or a misprojection before we declare it official.
You said that Don Glory did good on prop management today during the rendezvous. I was just wondering, you got, I guess, 2 reboost sessions planned. What is your goal in terms of altitude, I guess, of total reboost?
Well, we actually have three reboost sessions of an hour each, which is a limitation that we have on the thruster firings. Have got to be a day apart. And we are aiming right now for 211 nautical mile circular altitude. I ought to be able to do kilometers, but I'm not that fast in mathematics. We're aiming for a 211 nautical mile orbit. Actually, the station would like to get a little bit higher, so folks were off running the numbers, and we might actually try to go a little bit above that, but that also remains to be seen. We did very well on the propellant today. A lot of that was due to very good navigation. A lot of that was due to very good piloting, and not a small amount of it was to do with just being plain old lucky, and made a couple 100 pounds of propellant over what we had predicted.
Thanks. I'll do my Phil Chin imitation and tell you that's 242.6, but I had to do it with the calculator. And the final question here is, I seem to recall a stiction problem, I guess, on the last docking or the one before that. I was just wondering if that's something that's common with the ODS on the orbiter. I want to make sure that the issue is on the ODS orbiter side, not station side, obviously.
Clearly, this is a part of the mechanism that's on the orbiter side. We get it back every flight we look at it. We've had a couple of stiction problems in the past. This is not unusual or anything to really be worried about. Obviously, we worked through it very well, and in this mechanism that's trying to damp out a huge amount of momentum. If you think about 200-ton ocean liners coming together and they've got to match perfectly, you know, there's a lot of energy to take out to get that line perfectly, and the mechanism has got a lot of work to do. So it worked fine. It just took a few minutes longer, and I don't think this is a major issue, but obviously we'll take a look at what happened in post-mortem, and if there's some improvement to be made, or change to maintenance, or something like that, we'll certainly consider that down the road.
Okay, and I believe that's all the questions from Florida. Do we have any further questions here in Houston? Go ahead.
Yeah, Mark Carreau from the Houston Chronicle. Just a final question on this stiction issue is, I didn't sense that there was some concern that the spacecraft were going to make unwanted contact. Is it really just that, or is it really just a matter of the mechanism dealing with the momentum, as you were speaking about earlier?
Once the capture latches are made, which is that first contact with the outer ring, with the ring extended, we're not in any danger of the shuttle and the station, you know, running into each other and doing any hardware damage to either vehicle. All it's a matter of is getting this alignment, which is a lot of momentum going through a very small area, getting this mechanism to damp out the motion so we can be aligned, because when you pull the interfaces together, the seal's got to be perfectly aligned, obviously, to maintain pressure integrity. So this was not a hazard. It was just you know, a little delay, and we had to work with the mechanism a little bit. And lest we make too much of it, this was not what I would call a big deal kind of a thing. This was a small idiosyncrasy of the way the mechanism works, and we were able to work through it and got where we needed to be, and it just cost us a few minutes of time.
And if we have no further questions, then we'll conclude the briefing.
Endeavour Houston, we are on the flight deck. We have live flight deck video, and Linda, you are go ahead and do the gas.
Okay, Shannon. Houston, Endeavour, how do you hear on the BIPSMU air to ground 2?
And Endeavour Houston, we hear you loud and clear on air to ground 2. How us?
Shannon, we've got you loud and clear, and we get a little bit of squeal depending on the volume setting on the BIPSMU and the proximity to the handheld mic.
We got a little squeal also, but that's life.
Houston, Endeavour, one more time with the BIPSMU air to ground 2 check.
And Endeavour Houston, we hear you loud and clear, air to ground 2.
Shannon, turning all the loops off, including the ICOMs, is what fixed the squeal. We hear you great right now.
Okay, and that improved the way we hear you also. So that's working great.
Everything's turning out great so far.
And Endeavour Houston, the NC targets and an orbiter state vector are coming on board at this time.
Okay, Shannon, and we got block 7 Alpha in work.
Okay, we copy that, and at your convenience, I have the maneuver pad for NC4. I can read it up to you when you can copy, and I also have the pen and ink changes to the checklist at your convenience. Endeavour Houston, good burn. No trim required.
And here we have the shuttle in view from the International Space Station. Two spacecraft are in darkness over central Australia. They'll be approaching an orbital sunrise as they reach the continent's east coast.
Endeavour, we have a great view of you now. You look really good.
ISS Expedition 3 Commander Frank Culbertson radioing Endeavour astronauts that they have a fine view of the orbiter, and we see that view here in these live downlinked shots on NASA television.
Yeah, that's a great view.
This is still sequential video from the orbiter. Cameras looking upwards at the International Space Station. These shots are from the centerline camera, which will aid in docking Endeavour to the International Space Station. The yellow objects are the huge solar arrays of the spacecraft, the yellow-orange objects actually. They stretch 240 feet from tip to tip. At the top of the screen is the pressurized mating adapter, to which the Endeavour will dock about a minute before 2 p.m. Central Time. Just below that pressurized mating adapter is the U.S. laboratory Destiny, and protruding from the laboratory is the Canada Arm 2, the big arm, or the station's remote manipulator system.
Houston, Endeavour Alpha's solar arrays appear feathered.
Endeavour Houston, we concur.
Now we're looking down at Endeavour, just as Commander Dom Gorey reports that the solar arrays of the International Space Station appear feathered in preparation for docking of the orbiter. The feathering process places the array's edge on to the orbiter as it approaches the International Space Station. That's done to avoid possible damage or contamination from the reaction control system jets maneuvering the orbiter.
Endeavour Houston, you're go for the V-bar approach.
Roger, go for V-bar approach.
Capcom sounded lucid, giving Endeavour Commander Dom Gorey the green light for the V-bar approach to approach the International Space Station along the path directly ahead of the ISS.
And Endeavour Houston, you are go for docking.
Roger, Shannon, go for docking.
That's affirmative.
Houston, Endeavour, we're going to put configure for docking in work.
This view from one of the cameras on Canada Arm 2, the station's robotic arm, shows Endeavour as it approaches the pressurized mating adapter on the leading edge of the U.S. laboratory Destiny. The pressurized mating adapter is in the upper left of the screen, the darker object. And this shot from the ISS, Endeavour's orbital docking system, and its extended ring can be seen just behind the crew compartment at the forward end of the payload bay. Less than 5 feet. And we have contact. Capture is confirmed.
Free drift. Alpha Endeavour, Capture confirmed. Free drift.
Endeavour Houston, station free drift confirmed.
This is Mission Control Houston. We're receiving downlink television pictures now from the International Space Station's Destiny Laboratory as the crew members move into position to welcome their visiting compatriots from the Space Shuttle Endeavour. This view in the airlock of the Space Shuttle Endeavour with pilot Mark Kelly and Expedition 4 Commander Yuri Onyefrenko in view, looking through the hatch window into the International Space Station. These signals actually coming down through the Space Station television system through a link up with the Space Shuttle Endeavour.
Endeavour Houston on the big loop. We have you loud and clear.
We got you the same, and we're waiting on the thumbs up from the other side. We're going to open the hatch. We're ready.
Commander Dom Gorey receiving a verbal heads up, thumbs up from Commander Frank Culbertson, opposite side of the hatch, opening the hatch and preparing to enter into the International Space Station.
You got that? Come in here. Oh, you. We're coming, I'm going to middle. And then, Expedition 4 arriving. Frank, how are you? Commander. Come on, Yuri. Good to see you. How are you? Good, good. You guys look great. Yuri, nice to see you. Come on in.
This is Mission Control Houston. All 10 crew members now gathered in the Destiny Laboratory module, welcoming each other.
Feedback. I think we had our speakers too high, but does it sound okay now? Sounds great now. We heard the feedback earlier, and it's gone now. Okay. Well, they brought us some goodies, and we're real happy to have them here. And we want to welcome aboard our 7 new crew members, our 7 new crewmates, and welcome to the International Space Station. And it's a really big day for us, but I know it's a big day for Expedition 4 also. And Dom, we sure appreciate your good driving to get them here. It looked beautiful coming aboard, and very, very smooth flying, and very nice contact. And hardware always gives us trouble, so get used to it. But you guys fixed it very well. This is a great place. You're going to love it here, and we'll tell you all about it and help you get settled, but we're really happy to see all of you. Thanks for coming. Welcome aboard.
Earlier, the incoming crew got a very special wake-up call. That was the daughter of astronaut Dan Bursch and her second-grade classmates.
Auf der internationalen Raumstation ISS ist in der Nacht eine neue Besatzung eingetroffen. Die Raumfähre Endeavour brachte die 3 Raumfahrer aus Russland und den USA an Bord. Die Raumfähre dockte planmäßig in 400 Kilometern über Osteuropa an. Im Gepäck hatte der neue Kommandant nicht nur frische Äpfel, er brachte auch 6000 US-Fähnchen mit, die nach dem Ende der Mission an Angehörige von Opfern der Terrorangriffe verteilt werden sollen.
Der internationalen Raumstation ISS. Nach zweitägigem Flug dockte die amerikanische Raumfähre Endeavour in der Nacht planmäßig an der ISS an. Rund 400 Kilometer über den britischen Inseln ging die neue Besatzung an Bord. Im Gepäck 2 Tonnen Versorgungsgüter. Die Männer sollen bis Mai in der Raumstation bleiben. Die Endeavour war am Mittwoch mit 5-tägiger Verspätung in Cape Canaveral gestartet.
The International Space Station, the Space Shuttle Endeavour docked with the station Friday, delivering a new 3-member crew to relieve the men who've been up there since August. Their arrival signaled the end of a 4-month stay for Space Station Commander Frank Culbertson. During Endeavour's 11-day mission, 2 shuttle astronauts will venture out on a spacewalk to perform space station maintenance.
Many Pearl Harbor survivors have traveled to Hawaii to mark the 60th anniversary of the Japanese attack on Pearl Harbor. "100 survivors listened as taps was played at a service on board the USS Arizona Memorial in Honolulu. Flowers from more than 30 wreaths were dropped from the memorial into the water over the sunken battleship. For many, this year's anniversary holds special significance in the wake of the September 11th terrorist attacks. As Bill Schneider reports, sacrifice was the order of the day then. Now the administration is struggling to find ways for ordinary Americans to contribute.
On Pearl Harbor Day in 1941, the world had been at war for more than 2 years. A few days after Pearl Harbor, President Franklin D. Roosevelt sent a message to Congress saying, "The long-known and long-expected has taken place." Pearl Harbor was an attack on a military installation thousands of miles from the mainland. After examining the press coverage immediately following Pearl Harbor, David Brooks writes in the Weekly Standard, quote, "Americans at the start of World War II did not appear emotionally wounded the way they did after the attack on the World Trade Center. Instead, the dominant mood was one of relentless cheerfulness." In 1941, many Americans were eager to become part of a great cause, confident about the country's prospects, proud and determined. September 11th was a far more traumatic experience. It was an attack on civilians in major population centers during peacetime. The country witnessed it firsthand, live, in real time. Which event do Americans think will have a greater impact on the United States? By nearly 3 to 1, they say September 11th. The September 11th attacks, followed by the anthrax scare, have made Americans feel intensely vulnerable and threatened.
Our intelligence and law enforcement agencies have seen an increased volume and level of activity involving threats of terrorist attacks.
But while September 11th was more traumatic than Pearl Harbor, it was also less disruptive. After Pearl Harbor, Americans had to endure inconvenience and sacrifice, rationing food and gasoline, recycling rubber and metal, buying war bonds, sharing rides, giving up simple pleasures like nylon stockings, and most of all, the draft, which disrupted families and careers. Columnist David Broder lived through Pearl Harbor. 9/11 is not this generation's Pearl Harbor Day, he writes in the Washington Post. People today tell him, basically life has not changed. I have no idea what I can do. They don't know what is expected of them.
Many ask, what can I do to help in our fight? The answer is simple. all of us can become a September the 11th volunteer by making a commitment to service in our own communities. So you can serve your country by tutoring or mentoring a child, comforting the afflicted, housing those in need of shelter and a home.
President Bush has to find things for people to do so they can feel involved in the war effort. Because this war is being fought not by draftees, but by skilled professionals using advanced technology, like the Gulf War and Kosovo. What's missing in this experience? Public involvement and public sacrifice. What did Pearl Harbor Day mean? It meant something very different from September 11th. It meant less trauma and greater sacrifice. Bill Schneider, CNN, Washington.
Guten Abend, liebe Zuschauer. Aus Afghanistan gute und dann auch wieder enttäuschende Nachricht heute Abend. Nach 5 Jahren eines bizarren und grausamen Regiments haben die bärtigen Männer der Taliban die letzte größere Stadt geräumt. Ein pashtunischer Stammesrat übernahm heute Kandahar und bat die Amerikaner, die Stadt nun nicht mehr zu bombardieren. Der Mullah Omar, Oberste der verscheuchten bösen Geister und einstiger Gastgeber für Terroristen aus aller Welt, er ist verschwunden. Überhaupt ist das Seltsame an dieser Kapitulation von Kandahar, dass wir nun Bilder von allerlei Siegern sehen, aber noch keine oder noch wenige von Besiegten. Die Gotteskrieger, so heißt es nur, sie seien abgezogen. Man ahnt nur vage, wohin. So bleibt es mutig zu behaupten, nach 2 Monaten sei der Krieg in Afghanistan nun endlich vorbei. Von Osama bin Laden, dem Weltfeind Nummer 1, fehlt ebenfalls jede Spur.
Bis heute ist es kaum zu fassen, dass es wirklich passiert ist. Dass Terroristen gezielt vollgetankte Passagiermaschinen als fliegende Bomben einsetzten. Und bis heute behaupten die Sicherheitsbehörden, dass mit derartigen Anschlägen niemand rechnen konnte. Doch so ganz ahnungslos waren die US-Geheimdienste offenbar doch nicht.
Was sich jetzt darstellt, ist, dass das Anschlagsmuster bekannt geworden ist oder bekannt gewesen ist. Das Anschlagsmuster, was da sagt, entführe mehrere zivile Verkehrsflugzeuge, steuere sie synchron in zivile Ziele auf dem Boden der Vereinigten Staaten und töte dabei möglichst viele Menschen.
Ein Wohnungsbrand in Manila brachte die philippinische Polizei schon 1995 auf die Spur einer Al-Qaida-Terrorzelle. In dem Apartment fanden sich Hinweise, dass dort ein Attentat auf Papst Johannes Paul II. Vorbereitet wurde, der die Philippinen wenige Tage später besuchte. In einem Computer von Abdul Hakim Murad entdeckten die Ermittler einen zweiteiligen Plan mit dem Namen Projekt Bojinka. Teil 1 beschreibt das Konzept, mehrere US-Verkehrsmaschinen gleichzeitig mit Bomben zu versehen, und Teil 2 geht noch weiter.
Der zweite Teil von Projekt Bojinka ist offensichtlich unterschätzt worden. Das ist der Kamikaze-Teil. Man ging damals einfach davon aus, dass es solche Kamikaze-Piloten nicht geben würde. Man hat unterschätzt, dass zum Beispiel die 3 Mitglieder der Bin Laden-Zelle in Manila Flugunterricht genommen haben. Heute weiß man, warum sie es gemacht haben.
Zu der Terrorzelle gehörte ein gewisser Ramzi Youssef, der später auch für den Bombenanschlag auf das World Trade Center von 1993 verurteilt wurde. Und zwar gemeinsam mit seinem in Manila festgenommenen Komplizen Abdul Hakim Murad. Murad hat uns von einem Plan erzählt, Passagierflugzeuge zu entführen, um sie in das CIA-Hauptquartier in Langley und ins Pentagon zu stürzen. Außerdem waren offenbar Anschläge auf den Sears Tower in Chicago und das World Trade Center geplant. 1994 hatte Youssef sogar einen erfolgreichen Test durchgeführt und in einer Maschine der Philippine Airlines eine kleine Bombe explodieren lassen. Die US-Behörden ahnten offenbar nicht, was all das bedeuten könnte. Die Liste der Dinge, die die CIA nicht weiß, ist viel länger als die Liste derjenigen, die sie weiß. Die Öffentlichkeit glaubt immer, die CIA und andere Sicherheitsbehörden seien allmächtig, aber davon sind sie weit entfernt. Auch die US-Geheimdienste konnten nicht wissen, wann und wo die teuflischen Pläne in die Tat umgesetzt werden würden. Aber dass Terroristen Flugzeuge zu Bomben umfunktionieren wollten, das hätten sie offenbar durchaus ahnen können.
Er hat die Amerikaner überrascht, traf sie völlig unvorbereitet. Der Terror des Osama bin Laden. Es gab keine Vorwarnung, die Geheimdienste waren ahnungslos. Die Luftüberwachung hatte keine verdächtigen Flugbewegungen bemerkt. Um für mögliche künftige Anschläge besser gerüstet zu sein, haben die USA ihre Schutzmaßnahmen verstärkt, auch am Himmel. Dort kreisen seit Oktober AWACS-Maschinen der NATO. An Bord der Radaraufklärer sind auch deutsche Soldaten aus Geilenkirchen bei Aachen. Ralf Vogestraat ist bei einem Einsatz mitgeflogen.
Kurz vor Mitternacht auf der Tinker Air Force Base in Oklahoma im Herzen der USA. Wir besteigen die umgebaute Boeing 707. Die Piloten checken ein letztes Mal ihre Geräte, dann geht es los zum Einsatzgebiet, das vor uns mitreisenden Zivilisten bis zum letzten Moment geheim gehalten wird. Kaum in der Luft beginnt die Arbeit des internationalen Teams. Die Piloten sind Amerikaner, die Radarspezialisten kommen aus fast allen Mitgliedsländern der NATO. Auch 5 deutsche Bundeswehrsoldaten sind mit an Bord. Sofort werden die Computer angeworfen, die Radarschüssel, die auf dem Rücken der Boeing 707 angebracht ist, muss aktiviert werden. Es ist ein eingespieltes Team. Man kennt sich aus Einsätzen über Kosovo oder über dem Irak, aber der Einsatz in den USA ist etwas anderes. Ich hätte nie gedacht, dass ich eines Tages in den Staaten diese Art von Mission fliegen muss. 3 Stunden später kommen wir am Einsatzgebiet an. Für die nächsten Stunden fliegen wir in 10.000 Metern Höhe im Kreis über Washington, New York und Philadelphia. Diese Flüge können zwischen 10 und 20 Stunden dauern. Kein Problem für die NATO-Veteranen, die hier an Bord sind. Das eigentliche Ziel dieser Aufklärungsarbeit ist dagegen vielleicht manchmal ein bisschen schwieriger zu verdauen. Die Punkte auf dem Radarschirm sind zum großen Teil Zivilmaschinen. Das AWACS-Team passt auf, dass sie keine Flugverbotszonen verletzen. Und wenn es doch zu Zwischenfällen kommt, dann werden die amerikanischen F-16 Abfangjäger eingesetzt, die seit September ständig in der Luft sind.
Ich habe mit denen Funkkontakt, ich spreche mit denen, ich weiß genau, wo die sind. Muss ich ja wissen, weil ich muss die ja genau ansprechen und die zum Ziel hinführen dann.
Das Ziel wären dann höchstwahrscheinlich zivile Flugzeuge, vielleicht sogar Passagiermaschinen. Und das macht den NATO-Einsatz über den USA schon sehr ungewöhnlich.
Bei einem ähnlichen Zwischenfall wie am 11. September ist man seitens der amerikanischen Regierung durchaus bereit, Flugzeuge dieser Art abzuschießen. Das ist ein Konflikt, in den man hier kommen kann, als deutscher Soldat, unter Umständen solche Einsatzbefehle geben zu müssen.
Unser Flug verläuft ereignislos. Bei Tagesanbruch treffen wir unsere fliegende Tankstelle. Eine halbe Stunde Präzisionsfliegen in 10.000 Metern Höhe. Die beiden Großflugzeuge sind in dieser Zeit nur wenige Meter voneinander entfernt. Ein Spezialist im Tankflugzeug überwacht die ganze Zeit den Einfüllstutzen. Wir haben jetzt genügend Benzin für die zweite Halbzeit unseres Einsatzes. 12 Stunden insgesamt verbringen wir in der Luft, bevor wir wieder in Oklahoma landen. Für die NATO-Soldaten aus Geilenkirchen bei Aachen ein ganz normaler Arbeitstag.
Good afternoon and welcome to today's STS-108 status briefing. With us to give us the status of activities is Station Flight Director Sally Davis and Shuttle Flight Director Wayne Hale. We'll hear from both of them, then we'll take questions. Sally?
Good afternoon, everyone. We're well into Flight Day 4, the first full docked day with the shuttle and station. And the activities of today went extremely smoothly. We installed the MPLM on the station. The crew is in the process of opening the hatches, and we'll start some transfer of some of the items in the MPLM over to the station very shortly. We'll see that coming up. Additionally, we did some transfers of some powered payloads from the shuttle middeck to the station, and then some replacement payloads back to the shuttle middeck. We got word as we were waiting for the press conference to start that the crew had completed the seat liner and suit pressure checks, so the Expedition 4 crew is now officially the station crew. And hopefully the rest of the mission will go as smoothly as today. We were very pleased with the MPLM Common Berthing Mechanism operations, the smoothest I've seen, and I've sat through several of them. On tomorrow's agenda, more MPLM unloading, and Linda and Dan and Dom will start the preparation for the spacewalk, which is scheduled the next day. Wayne?
Well, I have very little to add to Sally's report. The shuttle is operated just perfectly. The robot arm installed the MPLM, had absolutely no hitch in its operation. The crew is in excellent spirits. They've been working very hard. We've already transferred a number of items, including at least one water container that we filled up this morning. And we're looking forward to an excellent rest of the mission. We're continuing to conserve electricity toward the hope of officially getting an extension to this flight, probably officially decide that on Tuesday. That's all I have.
Okay, with that, we'll see if we have any questions here in Houston. No questions here in Houston, so we'll check in Florida at the Kennedy Space Center. If we have questions there, you can proceed now.
Marcia Dunn, Associated Press. I just wanted to learn a little bit more about the attempts to transfer nitrogen from the shuttle to the Quest airlock.
Yes, Marcia. We hooked up the lines this morning when the crew woke up, and because we needed some time to watch the flow rate to tell if it was actually transferring, we watched it for several hours, and toward the end of our shift, around 3 o'clock this afternoon, we had decided that we were not getting the flow we expected. They are in the process of troubleshooting it by opening and closing various valves and seeing if they can tell where the connection may possibly not be made. But we're troubleshooting that right now.
How much nitrogen would you like to send over, and are you also trying to transfer oxygen?
We are planning to do an oxygen transfer. I believe it's on flight day 8. We need to do nitrogen early because we need the pressure in the shuttle tanks to be high enough. It's a pressure transfer. I don't know the numbers on the nitrogen, and they'll be just predicted amounts. Maybe Wayne can chime in if he remembers. But
I think we were aiming for 20 pounds of nitrogen and 40 pounds of oxygen, if memory serves correctly. These are small amounts. It's kind of a demonstration thing. We do like to leave the station tanks at their maximum capacity, but it's really no impact on this particular flight if we don't get the transfer done. But obviously we'd like to get all the lines checked out and make sure everything works properly in preparation for all the EVAs that are going to be done from the space station airlock in the future.
Todd Halverson of Space.com for either James or I guess Wayne. I noticed on the RevG TV schedule that there's a national anthem event that's been added either coincidentally or not for the 3rd anniversary of the September 11th terrorist attacks, and I'm wondering if you could give us some insight into what that event is and how it came about.
Well, I guess I can give you some background on that, Todd. That is basically a White House event that originated at the White House. I think the president's having a ceremony that day. I think that's already been announced, and agencies around the government are also having those ceremonies as well to mark the 3-month anniversary. And actually, I think the request was made internationally for other nations to observe it as well.
And just a quick follow to that, could you give us any insight into what we might expect out of the commemorative event tomorrow evening?
Well, I mean, basically it's, you know, the crew feels very strongly about what they're doing and carrying the commemorative items they have on board the shuttle. And I think it's an opportunity for them to express those feelings. So that's what that event will entail, basically.
Bill Hart with CBS for Sally, and it's a question we ask for every single one of these missions, and I don't know why I can never remember the answer. But once the seat liners and suits are transferred, does the ISS-4 crew sleep on the station starting now, or is that still split up a bit until we get later in the mission?
We leave the sleeping up to the crews in general with certain limitations. We want to make sure our environmental control systems can support however many people are sleeping on which side of the hatch. So we're leaving that up to them for now.
Todd Halverson of Space.com with one for Sally, I guess. It seems to me that the crew has been troubleshooting some comm problems, and I just can't seem to figure out whether it's comm problems between the shuttle and the station and the shuttle, or exactly what's going on, and I thought you might be able to elaborate.
Only to say we have the intercom system where the crews can talk to each other from the station to the shuttle and vice versa. Has not been working the way it was supposed to today. However, they are still communicating either by floating over or talking on the space-to-ground and air-to-ground loops. It hasn't really impeded ops. The intercom is a convenience, and again, as we speak, the station team is in the process of trying to figure out why the intercom system is not working exactly as it should.
And just a quick follow to that, is that at all a potential flight safety problem?
No, absolutely not.
And I believe that's all the questions we have from Florida. If we have no further questions here in Houston, then we'll conclude the briefing. Thank you very much.
These live views are coming to us from the International Space Station, docked with Endeavour, and now just crossing the far southeastern coast of South America. This shot shows the shuttle's robotic arm on the right. It's powered up and soon to be unberthed. It will grapple the Raffaello, the multipurpose logistics module. That's the cylindrical object. You can see the top of it just in front of the vertical tail fin of Endeavour.
At Endeavour Houston, as a heads up, we selected on downlink so that we could watch the CBM.
Okay, Shirley, copy. Understand you're looking at the CVM now.
It's affirmative, thanks.
This view on NASA television shows the common berthing mechanism on the Unity node, on the Earth-facing port of the Unity node. Preparations are underway for it to receive the Raffaello, the multipurpose logistics module, bringing about 3 tons of equipment and supplies to the International Space Station.
At Endeavour Houston, we see you finished with RMS power up and you go for MPLM grapple. At Endeavour Houston, we are go for MPLM unberth.
Roger, go for MPLM unberth.
Shuttle Capcom Shannon Lucid giving Endeavour crew members, Endeavour Commander Don Gorey, the green light to continue with the unberth of the MPLM Raffaello, bringing 3 tons of equipment and supplies to the International Space Station. These live pictures coming to us on NASA television as Endeavour and the docked International Space Station orbit over central South America. This ground track will take them out over the Atlantic just at the equator, then move up over Western Europe and across the Asian heartland.
Houston, Endeavour, we're bringing the MPLM out of the bay.
And Endeavour Houston copies, and we'll be following along.
Still looking aft, using one of the shuttle cargo bay cameras. Raffaello continues its rise out of the shuttle's cargo bay. Raffaello continuing its rise from Endeavour's cargo bay. On the upper right portion of your screen, you can see the end effector of the shuttle's robotic arm, operated by mission specialist Linda Godwin with an assist from Endeavour pilot Mark Kelly. Godwin continuing to move the Raffaello at the end of the shuttle's robotic arms. He's operating slowly and deliberately toward the Earth-facing port of the Unity node of the International Space Station.
And Alpha Houston on 2 for Frank. Houston and Moscow are listening.
Okay, we just wanted to give you the status. The seats are all installed. There's a tiny bit of survival equipment to be installed yet. The medical supplies have all been transferred and swapped, and the suit leak checks have all been completed successfully, and Yuri will report on that in just a second. But this is just status for you. We'll do a formal changeover later, but in reality, the Expedition 4 is the station crew at this point. Over.
And we copy that milestone, Frank.
And we're now receiving downlink television pictures from on board the International Space Station. This view looking at the hatchway into the multipurpose logistics module.
Getting your video. It looks great. And just as a reminder, in a half an hour, the attitude control handover procedure is coming up. And as you probably realize, that's in the Joint Ops book, page 93. A note there that when the commander calls he's ready for the procedure on step 1, the station team will be doing the commanding from the ground.
Here we are seeing continued downlink television of the activities inside the International Space Station as Carl Walsh in the lower right portion of your screen and Linda Godwin just above him on the upper right portion of your screen continue to work on the preparations for the opening of the hatch into the Raffaello multi-purpose logistics module.
So Billy, what you're going to see here is a tour through the station, starting with the flight deck, and that's obviously the mid-deck of the shuttle, and we'll go through the hatch and into ISS. You can see an air hose there that allows the space shuttle to transfer nitrogen and oxygen to the space station. And here we are in the International Space Station laboratory module. And as you can see, it's not oriented exactly like the shuttle, and most things are upside down in relation to what the shuttle is. So a lot of times when you come in there, you got to reorient yourself. After the lab is the node, and there are a lot of bags staged in the node for our pre-pack, which means we're going to eventually take those bags and put them into the MPLM. After the node is the Russian FGB. The FGB is basically a tunnel that allows you to get to the service module and is used primarily for storage. That view is of the Soyuz spacecraft that's used as a crew rescue vehicle for the space station crew members. Here we see Yuri, Dan, and Carl finishing up the checkout of their Orlan suits, of their Sokol suits. focal suit is used for the Soyuz for both ascent and entry. After the FGB, you translate into the service module, and inside the service module we can start to see Vladimir on the treadmill. ISS crew members typically exercise about 2 hours a day to prepare for the time when they'll be returning to Earth, which this crew will be doing in approximately a week. The service module is the primary living quarters of the space station crew members. On the left is the service module table that's used where the space station crew members eat most of their meals.
This is Mission Control Houston. These shots on NASA television are downlinked. As you see them, they're taped footage of yesterday's activities leading up to the docking of the Endeavour with the International Space Station. Again, this is tape footage recorded yesterday as Endeavour approached the International Space Station. Our Expedition 4 Yuri Onofrienko operating a camera out one of the overhead windows. In the foreground, just a moment ago, was Expedition 3 Commander Frank Culbertson. Here in the red shirt is Expedition 3's Michael Turin. This is a station meal time with
Endeavour Alpha on the big loop. I'm hearing you on ICOM. Are you not hearing me? Okay, I'm going to go back to ICOM again. Try one more time.
and their Expedition 3's Vladimir Dezarov was demonstrating some meal preparation procedures aboard the station.
Okay, I was transmitting. Do you have both ICOMs on or just one?
There in the center, Expedition 4's Carl Walsh is flanked by pilot Mark Kelly and mission specialist Godwin of Endeavour.
Department, Emerald Society Pipes and Drums. By the center, quick, march!
Good morning, Endeavour. The men and women of the New York City Fire Department, Emerald Society Pipes and Drums are proud to wake you up for another great day in space. I understand you have some special flags on board, and we're looking forward to your presentation later on today.
Thanks, Katie. It's great to hear their music. I received that CD from a fireman that was working at the site of the World Trade Center. So thank you very much. I appreciate hearing that. And we're looking forward to a great day as well.
This downlink is coming to us live from the International Space Station, relayed through Shuttle assets. Shuttle crew members are working on the piles of equipment.
We're back with you, Tidris West, and be advised that we're on board and we have good downlink.
Here we copy, thanks.
Now we're up on the shuttle's middeck with pilot Mark Kelly. Endeavour Commander Dom Gordy and pilot Mark Kelly continue to work on the shuttle's middeck. As the spacecraft's just about to enter an orbital sunrise over the southwestern Pacific Ocean. These logistics transfer operations underway now aboard the International Space Station. The unloading of the Raffaello are involving a good deal more than simply moving the equipment. The equipment has to be recorded as it's removed from the Raffaello, or indeed from the shuttle middeck in the case of transfer from that area, and again its position aboard the International Space Station has to be carefully noted. Containers are barcoded and numbered, and Linda Godwin, shown here just drifting down toward this pile of materials, is the loadmaster for this operation.
Endeavour Houston, we are now with you on the middeck. That doesn't look like such a mess to me. You're doing a great job. No need to answer.
Thanks, Shannon.
We're back live on the Shuttle's middeck. The background is Endeavour Commander Don Gorey, and in the red knit shirt is Linda Godwin. They're doing preparations for the Monday spacewalk.
And Endeavour Houston, we are inside the lab. We have a good picture. We see Frank in the foreground, and he's smiling nicely, and we see Dan and Mark behind him. It's a real nice view.
Okay, great. Thanks, Shannon.
That's a great picture.
Okay, and you're going to go back to the shuttle middeck until the PAO event, is that correct?
That's affirmed.
Okay, thanks.
And Endeavour Houston for Dan. EVA Keith just said that that looks really good. You did a great job.
Thanks, Shannon. I was showing Keith how tight we can wrap the blanket.
And he is suitably impressed.
Hi to John down there also for the great training.
That congratulations radioed down to John Raines, the chief trainer in the EVA. Tani and Godwin just completed rolling up the blankets they'll install at the base of the solar arrays.
Juanita, well, we're going to talk a little bit about that spacewalk that they're having. In fact, we'll show you a couple of live images of the mission going on. You can see the astronauts there. The main purpose is to try to put those blankets around the system to avoid those very, very huge temperatures variation into space. In fact, I'll show you a little graphic that I just did a moment ago of where the system is, but it's moving so fast that already over the southern coast of Mexico, and you can see the average speed more than 17,000 miles per hour, which is almost 78,000 kilometers per hour. Now I'll take you a little bit more into Earth, I should say even higher then, because these satellite shots, just so you know, over 22,000 miles from the ground, or at about almost 36,000 kilometers high. And you can see that we do have some clouds into the southeast, lots of rainfall activity. In fact, moisture from the Gulf have been providing some heavy rainfall, some needed rain for the southeastern part of the United States for the past 12 hours or so. And we'll continue to see those showers, heavy showers, push a little bit more to the north into the Carolinas over the next 12 hours. To the northeast, it's much drier than it's been, and also a little warmer, with warmer conditions moving in. And we'll also have a little weak system that's moving into the southwest, but pretty much on the dry side. And we'll still have some showers and some snow entering the very northwestern part of the United States. Let's have a look at your forecast map. You can see that high pressure is moving right behind that system over the next 24 hours. So we'll see the rain taper up. But we do have another disturbance coming in and providing once again some well-welcomed rain for this part of the United States. In the meantime, high pressure to the northeast, some pretty colder conditions pushing in also to the northeast. Let's look at Montreal, just 1 degree. New York, 10. We're still Atlanta warming up a bit at 15. We have Dallas at 16 and Los Angeles, pretty windy conditions at 17 degrees Celsius.
Was the night before Christmas when all through the house not a creature was stirring, not even a mouse.
The children listened as Mr. Bush read The Night Before Christmas. After the reading, the children were invited to ask questions. They ranged from whether the White House had a basketball court, it does, to whether Mr. Bush likes being president. Just for the record, apparently he does. I'm Juanita Phillips in London. World Business Today and the headlines are up next. Thanks for watching CNN.
Oh, okay, sorry. Check that.
Arbeitsausflug ins All haben 2 Astronauten der ISS ein Stromproblem der Internationalen Raumstation gelöst. Sie verkleideten die Motoren des riesigen Sonnensegels mit Thermodecken. Ohne diesen Antrieb lässt sich das Segel nicht ausrichten. Wegen der extremen Temperaturschwankungen im All befürchtete die NASA einen Ausfall der Motoren.
Well, good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to today's mission status briefing on the progress of Endeavour's voyage to the International Space Station. A successful spacewalk today, and the folks here to talk about the progress of the mission, both from a station standpoint and a shuttle standpoint, along with the spacewalk details, are from my right here is Sally Davis. She is the lead flight director for Increment 4 aboard the International Space Station. To her right is Keith Johnson, who is the lead spacewalk officer or extravehicular activity officer for STS-108. And to his right is Wayne Hale, who is the lead shuttle flight director for STS-108. And again, we'll hear from all three, and then we'll throw it open for questions. So with that, I'll turn it over to Sally.
Thank you, Kyle. Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the afternoon of Flight Day 6 for UF1. We've had a very successful day so far and are looking forward to having some additional activities between the shuttle and the station later on today when the hatches are open. We had an EVA we felt was very successful this afternoon. We achieved our primary mission objective of getting the blankets installed on the beta gimbal assemblies of the solar arrays, and I don't want to steal Keith's thunder. He's going to tell you all the details of how the EVA went and what we got accomplished, but we were very pleased with how that all went. Meanwhile, back in the station, the Expedition 4 crew spent the day moving the pre-pack items that were packed by Expedition 3 into the MPLM and getting organized in various and sundry other ways. Tomorrow we look forward to a full day of transfer and handover for everybody on the crew. We'll do another reboost in the afternoon, and hopefully well before this time tomorrow we'll know if we're going to add an extra day to the flight. And we are in the process of identifying exactly what activities we will be adding to that extra day, and we'll have some more information on that tomorrow. As far as transfer goes, I have a report from the launch package manager, Susan Voss, who will be here on subsequent days to give you all the details of it. But so far, not including today, we've transferred about 3,500 pounds of cargo from the MPLM and about 1,000 pounds from the mid-deck for a total of 4,500 pounds. And again, we're very pleased with how everything has gone in the mission. Keith?
Okay, well, this was our 25th shuttle-based International Space Station EVA, and I consider it a very successful EVA. We installed the two beta gimbal assembly blankets, which was our primary objective. We had a chance to look at the 4-bar linkage, trying to get that to work again, and I've got a mock-up in front of me that I'll show you in a few minutes to kind of give you an idea of what we're looking at from that standpoint. We did retrieve the SASA shroud out of the P6 stowage bin. We got one of our 8A tasks done, which was to pre-stage circuit interrupt devices for the STS-110 mission 8A, where they install the S0 truss. And we had a chance to look at a box that looked like it had, from downlink from the station arm, some MLI problems, and our crew got a chance to stop by that and find out that it is in fine shape. So from that standpoint, we consider it a successful EVA. When we installed our blanket, the first blanket took about 25 minutes to install. The second blanket took a little bit longer than that. We found that some of the straps didn't reach quite as far as they were supposed to, but we overcame that by routing some wire ties. And I can show you on one of our water mock-ups exactly what we used to do that. The straps, these straps right here, the crew removed them, looped them around a handrail standoff, and then pushed them back in place, and they did this both on the top and on the bottom and several places along the blanket. In the attempt to put this on, they found that the handrail standoff was a bit further away and that this piece didn't quite reach as far as it was supposed to make these two pieces of Velcro. And in the process, we have the Russian wire ties that we looped between these two pieces, and that will suffice in holding that in position. And from that standpoint, the crew worked around the blanket and pushed all the Velcro in place and made good contact everywhere. We had a few small areas that seemed to have a little bit of an open area, but we think that that's sufficient to provide the thermal effect that we're looking for. So from that standpoint, we installed both blankets, and we're very happy with the way that those went on. As far as the 4-bar linkage is concerned, from this mock-up right here, you can see that in this area right here, there's a square bracket that they're trying to attach the vice grips to. The problem that the crew had is that there's very limited access to get a tool in on this interface from this standpoint right here. So they spent a bit of time trying to get the tool attached to that particular square bracket. In the meantime, they couldn't get the throw that they were expecting. On this mock-up right here, there is no load on this particular shaft, so that in actually rotating this piece to get this part of the bracket to rotate, it's very simple to do on this mock-up right here, and what we generally practice with the crew on. On orbit, the ground is going to have to evaluate exactly what the crew saw. When they get home, we'll probably ask them some pretty extensive questions about what they attempted to do. But bottom line, they couldn't get sufficient force to rotate this, so there is perhaps another problem than what we originally thought. As far as it stands right now, having 3 of the 4 linkages is sufficient to keep the solar array right where we need it, so we're still in a good position. It's just something that they'll probably continue to look at. And from that standpoint, again, I considered it a successful EVA, and I'll pass it over to Wayne Hale.
I'll give you your toys back here, Keith. Okay, from the shuttle standpoint, this was a great day. We had the crew was very upbeat about the day. They were excited to go EVA. The equipment worked fine. Everything seems to be going very well. We even put Frank Culbertson to work on board the mid-deck of the Space Shuttle, filling up yet another water container to transfer to the International Space Station after we get the hatches open, which is probably happening either right now or very soon. We look very good to have the extra day. The mission management team is going to convene in the morning, and we expect to add an extra day to the flight unless turns out to be a good reason not to. We appear to have the consumables. And that decision being made tomorrow morning will actually add an inserted day the day after tomorrow, the way our planners work. They would insert a day the day after tomorrow. We have a shopping list of activities that our planners are putting together to put on that day. As I told you several times before, we put more into this mission, put more things on our to-do list than we knew we could accomplish, and we're going to take advantage of any extra time that we can get. So all in all, everything's been very successful today, and we're looking forward to another great day tomorrow.
Okay, thanks a lot. We're ready for questions. We'll start with Mark here, and then we'll go to the Kennedy Space Center for questions. Go ahead, Mark.
Thanks. Mark Carreau from the Houston Chronicle, and I have a couple of questions for Sally Davis. Regarding the installation that was installed today, do you have some sense of how long it will be before your team really knows whether this is helping or not with regard to the rotations of the beta gimbal? Is this something that you would know fairly soon, or will this again take some period of time to sort of analyze what's happening?
Probably in terms of a normal person's expectations on the results of a test, it's a long time, but in the engineering perspective, it's not all that long. We expect over the next 3 or 4 weeks, the beta gimbals will be put through the paces that will tell us whether the blankets are helping or not. That is our hope. And then some amount of time to look at the data and analyze it and come up with a recommendation no later than the first week in January.
And just to follow on that thought, if for whatever reasons this wasn't the solution and you had to fall back to the motor replacement, would you be installing a motor that had been somehow, and a gear assembly, I guess, too? Would you be replacing this? Would you be replacing the existing motors with something that had been modified extensively somehow, or would you just be replacing them with something similar to what's already there?
The design of a replacement motor housing would be identical to what's on board there, and the replacement would serve 2 purposes. One, to put a new one in there, hopefully with better performance, and the other is to bring the one home that had been giving us problems so we can take it apart, do failure analysis on it, and see if we can characterize the failure and come up with a design correction for future motors.
Anything else, Mark? Okay, let's go to the Kennedy Space Center for the questions from there, please.
Bill Harwood, CBS News, with one for Sally. Does the brim have any temperature telemetry, or you just look at how the current draws and stuff like that? Or is that the only way you quantify the behavior of the blankets?
Not have telemetry on the housing, which was where we think the deformation is occurring. This is all based on engineering models.
Basically, you're just going to watch the motor work and see if the current draw goes down. That's the way you tell if it worked or not.
Actually, the current goes up before it goes down, and that's the signature we're looking for.
Thanks. And for Wayne, just to make sure I understood you, if you do insert the day, then flight day 8 would become the new day, and I guess flight day 9 would be what was flight day 8 in terms of the stuff that had been scheduled, or you guys going to split some of that stuff up?
Well, basically you're right. Flight day 8 becomes a new day that we've replanned, and much of the activities get shuffled down. Of course, everything ripples through. The major activities, the MPLM closeout and putting it back on the shuttle, and when we undock, obviously all move a day to the right, but many of the other smaller activities get replanned in various ways to make the best use of the time.
Thanks. And one last one from me for Sally again. I'm sorry. And Sally, I don't mean this to sound, this is not a critical question. Maybe this is for Keith. I was just surprised that Velcro didn't fit, I guess, and I realize it doesn't make any difference. I was just curious that, are the drawings different from what's up there? I just don't see how that mistake got made. And again, I don't mean that critically. I'm just curious at how that happened.
Keith.
Well, I guess I would have to say that the blankets that we used were put together in a very short amount of time, a very efficient way to get them put together, and they were fit checked on flight hardware. The only thing that I can imagine is that for some reason the crew, when they got it in place, there is some difference in how they tried to pull the whole blanket and get it positioned. And again, they did try to move it around. Also, and that's not blaming it on the crew, there could be some slight differences in the way that they tested the ones that we have on the ground to the flight-like beta gimbal assemblies on the ground. So just perhaps some minor differences that were unexpected. And as you said, though, we did come up with a way to get them to fit, and they are covering all the surface that we wanted covered. So we're happy with that.
Peter King with CBS News Radio, and this is for either Sally or Wayne. Just curious, can you give us a couple of examples of things that are on the to-do list for the extra day?
Sure. There are several. One is the treadmill, and it has a platform that it stands on, so it cancels out the vibration imparted by the crew running on the treadmill. Very fancy treadmill, and it's been up there in use almost every day for a year, and it's time to change out the parts on it. So we will do a remove and replace, as we call it, and we'll take it out of the service module floor and replace the whole thing, essentially the chassis and all the avionics boxes. We also have some utility outlet panels, which is a fancy name for a power strip that has been redesigned and improved, and we'll be replacing a couple of those hopefully. The Russians have also asked us to consider replacing the compressor on the air conditioner in the service module that had the failure a month or so ago. So it's those kinds of things on the list.
Great. This one's for Keith, and I'm curious because we saw, and there were a lot of references to it. I'm sure the vice grips people were really happy to hear that you're using their tool a lot. I'm just curious as if there's any more off-the-shelf type tools that are used by the EVA astronauts up there, or is that pretty much it?
Well, actually, quite a few of the tools are slight modifications to standard off-the-shelf tools. We just make them compatible for the EVA glove. As you can imagine, we use wrenches and sockets just like you would use to work on a car at home or anything else. So quite a few of our tools are off-the-shelf tools, and again, we just modify them. We also don't want to lose any parts of them, so we add tethers to them, and we adjust them so that they lock in place.
And final question for Wayne. Can you talk a little bit about the agency's participation in tomorrow morning's 911 ceremony? Specifically, I'm curious if the shuttle and or space station crews will have anything to say during the ceremony tomorrow, or is it strictly going to be a video thing?
Well, as you know, the executive branch has asked all federal agencies and in fact encouraged all citizens and other countries around the world to participate in a memorial or a commemoration service at the hour in the morning that marks the 3-month anniversary. And we certainly are participating in that, and both the Space Shuttle and Space Station crews do intend to participate in that commemoration. So tune in tomorrow morning.
This is Marcia Dunn of the Associated Press for Keith. I'm wondering how many Velcro straps are on each blanket approximately, and I had heard of at least one that didn't make it all the way on the first blanket. Was it just the one, and also how many couldn't reach on the second blanket?
Well, it was the same strap on both the 2B beta gimbal assembly and the 4B beta gimbal assembly. It was the number 1 strap. We number them so that when the crew goes through them, they attach, and we can keep track of which ones they've attached. And there are 12 numbered, but that's not the total that there are. There are quite a few other patches that they have to mate up, that one long strip that isn't numbered. And just the number 1 strap on both blankets didn't quite make it to its intended spot. And again, we used the wire tie and pulled it in place, so it's no loss.
Thank you. And for Wayne, on the nitrogen gas flow, is there going to be any more troubleshooting, or is that the end of that?
Well, I guess I can say that we have another sequence of troubleshooting. That procedure was sent up to the station crews is really taking place on the station side. And as we have time available, we're going to spend a couple more hours troubleshooting that line. As you know, it's not terribly urgent that we do a nitrogen transfer on this flight, but we do want to check that out and make sure there are no stoppages or impediments in the transfer in future flights where it does become an important part of what we need to do as we assemble the space station with more spacewalks from the joint airlock on board.
Good morning, Endeavour. Linda, this rendition of Jumpin' at the Woodside was brought to you by Steve, Lauren, Lindsay, and all your friends in the Brass, Rhythm, and Reeds band. I should also say that they especially liked the tenor sax player on this recording, and that they were excited to be the ones to get you up and out the door for your spacewalk today.
Hey, Katie, that was a great song to wake up to, and I could tell from the first few notes who was playing that tune. They're still doing a great job. That's a good band. And tell them thanks very much for the music and the good thoughts.
Linda will pass that along. I also have a message for your partner in crime today. Dan, your friends at HHH wanted me to tell you, on, out. Have a great spacewalk today, both of you.
Well, thanks, Katie. We'll be going on out. And I'm not sure who you know at the H3, but give them my best, and I'll tell them all about the hash.
Well, a little bird named Dina let me in on that, Dan. You have a good day now.
These pictures coming to us live from Endeavour's middeck. Operations continue. Shown in this picture on the far left is Expedition 3 Commander Frank Culberson, now a member of the Endeavour crew. In the turquoise shirt with the bottom of the spacesuit is Vladimir Desrov, also of the Expedition 2 crew. And astronauts Godwin and Tani just now trying to open the thermal cover, or beginning to open the thermal cover, at the very outside of the airlock of Endeavour. You can see it moving in the lower left part of your screen.
I could pretty well run my hand around through it to get it to release.
How we see that?
There we go.
Great job.
Up and well.
See outside.
Okay.
You're clear. Looking good. Hey, Sandy, your first task is to prepare transfer the SIDS fuse tether to Linda. After that, we can figure my you.
Linda Godwin emerging from the airlock.
Linda, when you're ready with the at any time.
Okay.
This view from the shuttle's robotic arm, Canada Arm 2, looking down into Endeavour's cargo bay.
And for Don and Dan, I'm putting the sitting on the handrail.
Great.
Got one of the trousers on. Got the other one on.
Godwin at the end of the shuttle's robotic arm.
Okay, Dan, you have to go to egress and close the thermal cover when you're out. Hey, I'm going for a walk. I'll be back in a couple hours. Wow, look at that view. If Dan, you can pivot to your left about 180 degrees, and Linda maybe 20 left, we'll be in good shape.
Tony, inverted in this shot, reports successful attachment of the vice grips container to the end of the shuttle's robotic arm.
I see the brooms out there.
Godwin, in the suit with the red stripes, says she can see the brooms.
Mark's going to give you a ride. Okay. Okay, great. Ready. The view is just impossible to describe out here.
Brooms are the bearing, roll ring, bearing motor and roll ring modules that will be covered by the thermal blankets. Godwin and Tani are now moving upwards toward the P6 truss.
And Linda, how do you hear?
Mark, loud and clear.
Great.
The brooms are the devices at the base of the solar arrays that they'll cover with thermal insulating blankets.
Houston, Endeavour, Charlie, just one more verification. You've also got the P6 work site saved and the arrays are positioned, and then we're all set to enter the work site.
And that's affirmative, Don.
Okay, thanks.
Corey reports the arrays are properly positioned. Two of the solar wings are seen here in the upper left of the picture. They're properly positioned for the spacewalk to proceed. Endeavour will be passing into darkness shortly with the International Space Station firmly at dock.
The outside of that OAU window?
The more silver one, yes, not the other one yet. So,
What's the node?
yeah.
All right, that one looks good as far as I can tell. Sunshade window.
Yep. Helmet light.
Helmet light. That's good. Are you ready? No?
Yep, yeah, I was going to answer when I was ready.
We're back with live videos. We see the two spacewalking astronauts, Linda Godwin wearing the suit with the red markings, and Dan Tani in the all-white suit unfurling or unrolling the thermal blanket that will cover the mechanism at the base of the starboard side solar arrays.
Now don't keep an eye on me.
The first blanket has been successfully installed on the opposite side, on the port side of the base of the solar arrays.
How's this with my helmet right now?
The helmet's close to the electronics. Okay. But you'd rather stay tight and...
Yeah, just tight in his head, and I'll bring my... I think about the wire tie should have gone on the other end. I want to let go with. Can you?
Yeah, let me see if I can get number one.
I was going to see if you could poke this through this way at all. See what's happened. This is.
Yep.
I need the wire tie off of that. See what's happened?
Yeah.
I'm going to take an extra hand. There we go.
Good
back underneath.
Good stable position if we can keep it.
Yeah.
These views coming to us from the helmet camera of astronaut Dan Tani as Linda Godwin works to unroll the thermal blanket that is covering the mechanism at the base of the starboard side solar array, or that will cover it as soon as it's installed. Tani's now attaching one of the straps linked under a handrail and then secured with a Velcro patch.
Do you want to use my other hand?
Yeah, that's all right.
That's all right.
Good. Let's see if I can get number one. I'm going to go.
I'm standing in your way here.
Once you can do it, can you do number one there? I'll keep an eye on you.
How am I doing?
Doing good.
Helmet-wise.
We want to wrap it around first?
Yeah, I'd like to. It won't be any easier to come back here and do it later.
Okay. Tell you what, Lynn, I got a hold of your helmet.
Yeah, so I'm gonna have to go in like this.
All right.
Okay.
Nope.
See,
Hold on.
I can't use both hands there because as soon as I do,
Okay.
I just been too close.
How about if we both use one hand? We can do it that way?
Yeah.
Okay. So you went around.
Oh, let's back off. Let me see which way I need to go.
Okay.
That is the right way, right?
Yes. Grab that.
Yeah.
Okay.
One more twist there.
Godwin and Tani each using one hand to secure some wire ties.
That look all right? I'll pull it up there. Yeah, I think I can. Oh, you got it. Oh, sorry. I think I can get it here. How's my helmet?
You good?
All right.
Okay. Run roll.
Sorry about that.
Okay. Come around.
Just a minute. Let's get it from there. Yeah, I got it. Dan?
Got it?
Installation of these blankets, a two-person job. Godwin just bringing the free end of the blanket around the device that they're covering.
Okay, coming back up.
I'm going to move my Starboard Daddy up here, so I'm going to let you watch me before I do that.
Okay. You're good, clear right now, Linda.
Okay. Get up there to... Actually, I don't know if you can reach that over there.
What's that?
I won't have to get back in close.
Oh, 5?
Yeah, my grabber daddy.
Oh, your grabber daddy, yeah. Can.
Okay.
Let that go?
Yep.
Okay.
Tani releasing one of the tethers Godwin was using. These views coming to us from the helmet camera on Godwin's spacesuit. Again, they've just about completed encircling the device that they're covering at the base of the starboard solar arrays.
How about here? I do it like this. It's so clear?
Yeah, stay tight. Stay in. Yeah, those pockets are really great. You're good.
Yeah. All right.
Yeah, doing great.
If I get over too much like this?
Yeah, you want to stay tight. You got about 8 inches.
Oh, okay.
Stay to your right. No, good.
Oh. Boy, not quite coming together.
Pretty tight, isn't it? When to stay tight.
Okay.
Good. All right.
Not meeting. Do we have any,
Yeah, let's look for some free play.
I'm gonna need some more slack.
What did we miss?
It's over here. It's way too far over. It's not clearing, this cutout.
Okay.
You see it barely? I don't know if you can see this, Dan.
Yeah, barely
meets
makes
there,
the
and
cutout.
by the time it's on the other side, it doesn't.
Huh. But if, I can't see any slack here. Get over there and tug it a little bit.
That's why these aren't mating up too well, because they're too far over. I think that helps some.
Okay.
See, that's a lot better.
Is it?
That matches up. Can you get 3 up above your head again? Let's see if we can set it so the top now needs to slide around a little bit more, too.
Yep, I got 3 again.
Still pretty crooked, though. See.
Oh, and I don't see any, or there would be any slack either.
Well, the only thing we could do is undo the first 2 and offset those a little bit, I guess.
Godwin and Tani working to gain a little bit more slack in the blanket tightly surrounding the device at the base of the starboard side solar array that tilts those arrays as they track the sun.
Okay, if I do this right here, how am I?
Line 1, come tight. Okay, good, you're good now.
Okay, that seems looking better.
Okay. Lower.
So I need to still do the middle one.
Okay.
How am I doing on clearance?
Good on clearance.
Okay.
Okay.
I haven't. Okay.
I think it's
pretty
done.
Good. It's done.
Godwin reports the end of the blanket secured as Tani continues to monitor her position in relation to obstructions in the work area.
9 or 6 or whichever it is. 6.
Okay. Let me get in a good position to get the lid around here.
Okay. It's harder. Oh, we have to undo this TA clamp, I think. 8.
Tani and Godwin now working to attach the lid, the covering of the end of the device.
Remember this. Go over everything? No. Go under here? Yeah.
Oh, it feels good to be back out of the range. Yeah, that was hard to get through on the other side. I go find a handrail to grab her daddy too.
Well, it's funny, it feels upside down even though.
Damn it.
Yeah.
Alrighty.
Okay.
Linda and Dan, got a second?
Yeah.
I'd recommend you pause and just relax your hands for a second and check station zenith or NADA. Ready?
Well, I see some land. What are we over?
Just looking at the view. Hard to believe it almost doesn't seem real while we're up here.
I know. I agree.
Endeavour Commander Don Gorey advising Tani and Godwin to pause just a moment and take a look down. The International Space Station and Endeavour are just passing over the island of Cuba.
Not going right.
Okay.
We don't have to keep working. Let's look at it.
7 will come through here. That'll help. But there's something.
Gotta go.
There's something that's 8. This is 6, and that's made it for can be.
Yeah.
Hey Don, what kind of land are we over right now?
Dan, we're approaching Cuba and the Caribbean.
Wow.
What I think is probably the prettiest area on Earth.
Wow.
Probably has a lot of good boating and fishing there.
Yeah.
Probably a few fish. Wait, that's pretty good actually. Good.
I can see 10. 10's done. Oh, I see 11. Yep, 11 has made it.
Copy. And,
Godwin and Tani just wrapping up inspection of the attachment points as they complete work on installation of the blanket around the starboard mechanism that controls the tilt of the solar arrays.
on this starboard blanket.
Stand by, Endeavour.
in Endeavour, if you still like the pictures, we could go down to the 4-bar work site and work that, and then come on back, and that might work out a little bit better on the time.
And Dom, if there's time later on, they can come back and do that, but for right now, we're happy with the video we've been getting.
Okay, Linda, I'd like you to just ensure that the blanket is clear of the rotation plane at the bottom there, if you've already checked that.
Yeah. We looked at that pretty good. It's not even close.
Yeah, I can see it from here, and I see clear of the rotation plane by at least 3/4 of an inch all around. Okay, Linda, I'd like you to translate to the 4-bar repair work site, and Dan, you can maneuver to view that. Okay?
I'm on my way. Yes, you see my safety tether?
Yeah,
I saw it right before I rotated
right
here.
behind your right knee.
Okay. All right, that looks like that's good.
Good job, Linda.
Well, let's see how this is coming.
Yeah. Going to clear. Let you get stable, and then...
I'm trying to think which way I need to rotate here. See what I mean, just to not wrap myself up. It's coming off my right side.
Okay, I'm sorry. It's, goes down your left, behind your left thigh.
Sorry, I'm not picturing how to move here.
Yeah, let me see if I can... I'll be on here. I'm trying to get secure at my work site.
I think this will do it.
Yep, that's good.
Okay.
Now, hold on. Check the rat that you have on the blanket on your right side.
Let that, okay. Can you let that go?
I am ready to it.
Then I don't understand.
Oh, we're both ready to it.
But just, take mine off.
Okay. I can't reach it.
Okay.
It's going across your body over to your right. And, okay, here, let me pull into your right. If I can. Roll to your right, Linda, and see your this retractable lid. All right, no, it's way out there. That's behind your back now.
See, there's no way you can just take it off, let it go?
Okay. The retractable parts stuck on something or stuck in the lock. Okay, that's good. Okay. Okay, I'm going to let it go.
All right, thanks.
Back to you. Okay, and adjustable.
Yeah, I can reach that handrail. I'm not sure about getting to
The other one?
the other one. Let's see.
Hold on, you want Mark to move the arm? There you go.
Well, I do have a lot of tethers floating around here.
Yeah.
There's mine.
I think I've got mine. I think it's around my back.
Oh, it's in front of you.
Okay. Oh, okay, great. And yours? I see yours. I see us clear. Mark, if you can give me a minute here, I'm going to try to put an adjustable on this cloud. Let me get in place here.
Endeavour Houston for EVA. Our eyes on the clock, we're running behind. We'd like you to translate to the Z1APFR, drop the SIDS, and then we will neglect the rest of the 8A get-aheads and go to ingress.
Houston, Endeavour, I understand you'd like to drop off the SIDS and delete the other tasks.
That's a good copy.
Linda, if you can call when you're ready to start arm motion.
Okay. Wait a minute here for Dan still getting the shroud.
Linda, I'm ready when you are.
Okay, Mark, we're ready to go.
Okay, Linda, the first motion you're going to see is station, port, and nadir.
Close. I'm too close to you. I can't.
Bring my legs back around. Linda, can you see? Is it okay?
Oh, yeah, you're a little out from me right here.
Good driving, Mark.
Yes. you. And we enjoy the EVA. It takes a lot of people to train us many hours so that we get to do this, and we really appreciate John Raines and Keith Johnson working on that so hard, and also Celeste Gates and Dave Simon really worked at making sure we knew all those procedures for getting ready to come out.
Okay, Dan, we've got you translate back to the airlock and opening the thermal cover and ingressing.
Copy that. What a great day.
I think this will be a good drop-off position.
Seeing the helmet cam now on astronaut Dan Tani's extravehicular mobility unit spacesuit as he prepares to re-enter the space shuttle hatchway. Tani bringing in the shroud from the S-band antenna assembly known as SASA. The cover had been stowed inside a storage bin on the truss structure exterior. They're bringing it inside the crew cabin of Endeavour so it can be returned to Earth where it may be reused later. Again, the spacewalkers completed their major objectives, which is to install insulation blankets on the beta gimbal assembly swivel joints of the solar arrays. They also attempted to latch in place one of the braces on the starboard solar array wing using some vice grips, but they were unable to get a good enough grip with the vice grips and enough leverage to move that brace, and so we're told to lay off of that activity for the spacewalk as the engineers on the ground will take a look at the information from the crew on the situation, and they'll take a look at other potential fixes for the future.
Okay?
Okay, Linda, you have to go to close and lock the outer hatch.
Okay.
Tim's got nothing on you.
Oh, we haven't done it yet.
Yeah.
Can you pull me up?
Yeah, hold on. I can.
No, I don't. Never mind. I think I almost got the handrail.
Okay.
I don't. Okay. I'm trying to get my lights off. Actually, I'm up against your waist tether. You know, I could take that off because we're inside.
Sit in the way?
Oh, yeah. I'm pressed up right against it here. Never mind. I think it's coming off from there. There we go. Down the hatch is closed and locked.